Yo, what up? Wanted to quickly make a video about talking of I guess more of the unused crafts, and they are the non-X, like remove non-X, add X. And most of the time, I see people use these as like a random, like just a YOLO attempt at removing a random mod and adding another. For example, removing a bad prefix and add a life mod or something like that, or removing a random low, like let's say that you had a boots with very bad resistances, you remove one of the other resistances and add another one. And while those are, all good crafts and you should use those whenever you have a chance to, recently when I was crafting my large cluster tool, which is the Mage Hunter Conjure Wall, which ends up giving me 20% spell block with cleansing blows. I was using crafts like these, and I had a lot of people being scared as to me potentially risking removing either the Mage Hunter or the Conjured Wall, because neither of those are, they're like, neither of those are cold mods, so non-cold should be able to remove it, right? So originally, after like somewhere between 100 and 200 caster reforges, I hit the Mage Hunter and Conjure Wall, but I only had one suffix, and the suffix was dexterity. And sadly, dexterity is like pretty much useless for my build, so I wanted to get rid of it. And there's no like remove stat or remove dex, right? So the only way to do that is either YOLO annul or use non-X to X. And the way I made sure to not risk losing either the Conjured Wall or the Mage Hunter, obviously we could have used a non-caster to caster, but at the time there was a few people who said that their non-caster actually ended up removing one of the prefixes, so I was a bit scared that there's a bug or something like that, so I found out a way to brute force the removal to dexterity without risking the prefix at all. And the way to do that was, first of all, we added a random, I think I augmented like a fire resist on it, so I had dexterity and fire resist as a suffix. And then I did non-cold to cold or non-lightning to lightning. So if we take a look at the affix list here, so we are in the POE with large cluster jewel with spell damage. The only elemental rolls here are the resistances, and there is no prefix with a resist. So by having the item with two suffixes and two prefixes, we then have to we force the item or like the craft to remove one of the suffixes, because in order to add one of these resist suffixes, you have to make room by removing one of them. So if I had used the non-cold or non-lightning or non-fire to fire with only having the dexterity and an open suffix, there was actually a big risk of removing one of these and then add the resist. But by making sure that the only way for the game to add the resist roll was to remove one of the suffixes by making sure it's full, we actually made it 100% chance that it removes either the dexterity or the other resistances. And I think after like 4 attempts of this, I ended up removing the dexterity. Then I simply added a I ended up doing non-caster to caster with removing one of the resistances, because obviously it can't remove the caster mode, right? But there would have been other way, obviously, just to remove the resist with remove lightning or fire, and then do a add caster or add like a defense, or even attack in the case of the essence rush. But and then some people were asking, why didn't you do defense? And the reason here is because there's a defense prefixes. Even though all of these have a defense tag, So a defense, like a non-defense to defense, would most like, in the case of the suffix, would have to add the notable, but there was a risk that it would remove the caster mod and add a defense prefix, so we couldn't do that. And you can actually use the same style of crafting also to, if you want to craft a like a +2 chaos bond with a chaos dot or something like that. So let's say we have a wand like this here. So we're alt-auging, and then we ended up regalling like a mana for it, for example. Or if you're doing caster reforges and you get the +1 with mana. There's actually a way to remove the mana safely without risking the all skill gem levels, and make it a very high chance that you don't end up adding spell damage on it. Well, first of all, you can block the spell damage entirely by just crafting a spell damage on it, so then the non-caster to caster can't add the normal spell damage. Now, if you take a quick look at Karv of Exile, I have here simulated, we have like the 64 base, we are doing Exalt with a caster mod. This is actually the non-caster to caster. We know that it has to remove the mana if it doesn't have any other non-caster mod. So let's say that we have a 2 mod, we have the +1 all and the mana. The only non-caster is the mana, so it has to remove it. It has to. But if you have some suffixes that aren't a caster mod, or a prefix, you could also remove that. So make sure that there are no other non-caster mods that it could target. So in this case of suffixes, we could add cast speed, we could add crit chance, spell crit, and then there's a bunch of, actually let me zoom in a bit. There's a bunch of other caster mods as well. And let's take a look. So if we include both the spell damage and the spell damage to mana, it's like 1 in 5 chance, roughly, to add either of these. And both of these are pretty bad. Obviously, if you hit a high spell damage, that's nice. But we can entirely block the spell damage and then by crafting it. So let's block it. So you do that by right-clicking here. So now it's blocked. And now it's 1 in 9 to only add spell damage for mana. And this is if you have an open suffix for cast speed and crit chance for spells. And then there's a bunch of other mods that have the cast attack. And all of these can be removed without risking the +1 whole spell. Obviously, if you actually end up hitting the spell damage mana hybrid, well, now you have a caster mod, and then the only way to safely remove it is by splitting the item. But that's an interesting way you can also remove mana and have a very high chance of hitting something else. So let's say instead of wanting that, let's say we want to get either of any of these rolls, any of these rolls, any of we can pick every single one of these here because these are all good. That's fine. We can take any of these. We can take any of these. You're gonna see the chance for hitting any of these is very high, obviously, because the chance to hit the oh, I need to take that out. So chance to hit any of these on the add caster is very high compared to the spell damage mana hybrid. Yeah, just wanted to highlight a apparently a bit unknown way of using the non-X to X, based on what I've seen and the confusion that I've had recently when I've been doing my crafts. So yeah, hopefully, if you didn't know about this yet, we can use that for something in the future. Yeah.